Hello, everyone, and welcome to Getting the Most of Onshape's built-in PDM Best Practices for Experts. My name is Lindsay Early. I'm a technical services engineer here at Onshape and PTC, and I'm also here with Sofian Abulako, also a technical services engineer. Here's the agenda for today. So we're going to focus on PDM aspects of Onshape. So first we're going to talk about the importance of data management, and then we're going to get into some of the PDM features in Onshape that can help you on your PDM journey. So document and version control, release management, general tasks, where used, publications, and the PDM to PLM connection. My name is Lindsay Early. I'm a tech services engineer at PTC. I have 10 years of experience in PDM and PLM solutions. I'm a mother of four boys. I love camping, biking, tabletop games, and movies.
Hi everybody, my name is Sufyan Abulakal. I am engineer here at Onshape. I have a mechanical engineering background with more than 7 years working in PDM and PLM solutions in different industries. Outside of work, I enjoy hiking and playing tennis. And today I am really glad to be here and to be speaking with you.
So first, let's take a look at the importance of product data management. Product data management software is used to track and manage the data associated to a product, such as your parts, assemblies, and drawings. It helps to eliminate data duplication, increase collaboration through tools that make it easier to share and search your data. It provides better security for your intellectual property and controls documents through managing references, versions, and revisions. It also increases engineering efficiency by reducing the amount of time your engineers need to spend on tasks that are not productive. Just by being an Onshape subscriber, you're already utilizing many of our PDM features. Since all of your data is in the cloud, we handle all the infrastructure and security for you. Onshape is object-based instead of file-based, which means a much more robust reference management system, and it prevents corruption. Additionally, you essentially have an unlimited undo and redo since every action is recorded in history, making a save button completely obsolete. You can share a document with multiple people, and several users can be in the same document at the same time without worry that their work could be overwritten. You're using Onshape, which means you're already using some of our PDM tools, but how can you take it to the next level? This is the Onshape PDM progress bar. It shows a common progression you can follow to master all of our PDM tools. It appears linear, but their progression may look a little different for you. You may never touch on some of these subjects and you may jump forward. Once you're comfortable with using Onshape's basic features, the next common progression is sharing and collaboration. Share your documents directly with internal and external contacts. Take it up a notch by sharing specific tabs or versions in a publication. Collaborate through comments or use tasks to assign project duties. Then you can move on to using advanced document and version management. Onshape automatically creates changes in the version and history graph for each action you take in a document. Use named versions to mark milestones in your project, or use branching and merging to manage changes or try new variants. Then you can start using workflows. This will automate approvals and revisions. It'll enable the revision table for you in drawings and create defined points in history of the document. And finally, once you've taken full advantage of most of our PDM tools, your company may be ready to move on to Enterprise. Enterprise gives you more control over what actions are allowed in your company. It gives you access to reporting and the ability to connect to Arena PLM. Each of the topics in the presentation today are designed to introduce you to some of our new and advanced PDM tools that will help you level up your PDM progress bar. So first, let's take a look at advanced document and version control. Version control is a powerful feature in Onshape. Every action in a document is tracked in the version and history graph shown here with the small blue dots. This gives you the amazing ability to undo back to the point of creation of the document. Named versions are excellent for creating a defined point in history. That's what's shown with the larger dot and is highlighted in the picture. It's good for marking milestones or maybe a branching off point. Branches are completely independent design spaces within a document. They each have their own workspace that won't affect any other workspaces unless you do the intentional act of merging. There are two primary ways that customers like to use branches. Some use it similarly to a software engineer. The main branch is only updated when changes are ready to be released, and you use a development branch to manage the design changes until then. The development branch could be branched further for individual feature work. This creates a version graph that is created for change management and makes it easier to interpret what's in progress versus what has been released. Another way many companies use branches is shown at the top. You can use it for prototyping or variants, and in prototyping, you would eventually merge those chosen prototypes into the main branch, but with variants, you may never merge them. Let's take a look at some of this in action. This is a document that already has an alternative configuration that we wish to merge into the main branch. It's good practice to create a version to mark the model state right before the merge. Give it a name that makes it easy to identify. Activate the target workspace in the version and history graph. Right-click on the branch's workspace to initiate the merge. There are three options: keep, merge, and replace. Choose keep if you don't want the branch to overwrite a specific tab. Merge will merge the changes between both branches, and replace will completely replace the tab with what is in the branch. The top options apply the overall strategy for the merge, but you can change the strategy for each individual tab. The trumpet was edited in both branches, so instead of replacing it, we're going to merge the changes. The merge is shown as an action in the history graph. There's also a blue warning letting you know that the merge was completed. You can cancel it from the blue warning, or you can always restore to the last action before the merge. You do need to be careful when you are merging changes from multiple branches. Let's take a look at the trumpet because that was edited in both the main and the alternative configuration. You can see two competing features were added. The main branch applied a fillet, while the alternative configuration applied a chamfer. Remove one of them to remove the conflict. This is a common thing that can happen when you have competing actions in different branches that you merge. It's possible to delete the workspace on branches that are not the main branch. If there are versions on the branch, it will remove the workspace but leave the versions. This is helpful to communicate that a branch is no longer being worked on. It's important to note that anything made after the last version is completely gone, permanently gone, once the workspace is deleted. If there are no versions on a branch, the entire branch is removed when the workspace is deleted. So let's create a branch here just to show you. So if I did several actions here and then chose to delete it, everything on this branch will be permanently deleted because there are no versions. This is helpful if you make a branch in error or you took a path that you're absolutely not going to go down again. If you wish to add a workspace back to a branch, just right-click on it and choose Branch to create workspace. Since it does not have a workspace on that branch, instead of actually branching, it will just add it to the current branch. So next, let's take a look at release management. Release management is an important part of the Onshape PDM tools. It's available to professional and enterprise level subscribers. The standard workflow shown here includes the option to allow one approval or direct release. Workflows in Onshape are forward moving, meaning there's no looping back to previous states. Once a candidate is either released or rejected, it is finished. You must make another release candidate to submit a new release, but you can use the cloning feature to make it easier. If you have enterprise, you can do more complex workflows that set properties automatically or have multiple approvals. Release management is applied to components through the use of what are called release candidates. A release candidate is a container that can hold several different components at once to move through a release together. It is attached to a version of the document, which means the workspace is still available while release candidate is going through the workflow. Let's take a look at how release management works. Here's a drill gearbox that we wish to release. I'll right-click on it and choose Release to automatically create a candidate. Since the drawing is considered a parent, we will need to add its candidate from the assembly, but it did include automatically all the parts that are within it. I'm also going to add in another assembly for the clutch to move together with this one. If I look through the components that are going through on the release candidate, you can see that the chuck and the chuck collar have been previously released. They have been changed though, so we are going to go to revision 2 if this release candidate gets approved. The drill bit was also already released, but it has no further changes, so it's not necessary to apply a new revision. If you click the icon next to it, it will revert it back to the previous release. Also, you'll notice that same icon is up by the state column header. If you select that one, it would apply it to any parts in the release candidate or assemblies that have not been or have not been changed since the last release. So now that I'm ready, I can add the approver and all the release name, which would show in your version and history graph, and notes. Over on Elizabeth's side, she gets the notification through her email as well as in Onshape. And you can view the release directly from the notification. She takes a look at the assembly, but she realizes that there's something wrong with the hardware. You can see that they are M5 bolts here and they need to be switched to M6. So she rejects it. In order to reject it, you need to type in some sort of comment. So she can state that the M5 screws need to be M6. Back over on my side, I get a notification that it was rejected. If I view the release, I can look into the comment history and see what Elizabeth said. So now we can fix the socket head cap screws, and then we'll also fix the drawing because it will need to be updated. Instead of creating a new release candidate, I can just clone the previous release candidate, which will include the chuck and the drawing along with the assembly. I can add in some new release notes and add Elizabeth as the approver again. Elizabeth gets a notification that it's been submitted, She can view the release and approve it. You can open parts, assemblies, and drawings from your release candidates. So now that this has been released, if I wanted to view the release drawing, I can take a look at it straight through the release candidate. You can also access it through the version and history graph. Let's take a look at the release drawing. So here you can see that the revision table has been properly filled in with the approver and the date. And you can also see that the revision is filled in correctly in the bottom right corner. If I were to check the assemblies and parts that were also released with it, they would all have the appropriate revision. Over on the version and history graph, through most of this presentation, I showed through notifications just because it's so easy to get to the release candidates that way. But in the version history graph, you can also access your release candidates and the versions, the completed versions of the file, of the documents. So if I look here, you can see that a hollow triangle that represents a pending release or a rejected release. And then the filled in triangle represents a approved release. You can access the release candidate. And another benefit of using a clone is that we can see the comments from the previous release as well. So that's it with workflows, except that's the standard workflow. So let's talk a little bit about custom workflows, and then I will hand it on to Sophian. So custom workflows are available on the enterprise level for subscribers. They add a lot of flexibility to adapt your workflow to better fit your process. For example, you can have multiple workflows with completely different settings. Here, there's a pre-production workflow that has the option to direct release or have an approval that utilizes a letter revision. In addition, there is a production workflow that must go through two approvals and utilizes a number revision. You can also add additional fields to the release candidate. In this case, for a production workflow, they need checkers as well as an approver. And all changes should contain an ECO once it's in production. Using feature script, we could copy these values into the properties of each of the components to display them on the drawing or make them easily searchable. So if I were to put the ECO on your parts, assemblies, and drawings in the release candidate, then you could just search for that ECO number and you can get all the parts and assemblies and drawings that were involved. So next, I'm going to hand it on to Sophian for where used.
Thank you, Lindsay. First, I would like to say thank you all for joining us today. Next, I would like to share with you a few capabilities that can optimize your product design processes. So, most of the time, your first design will probably not be your final design, and you're gonna need a way to make changes, design changes, and to be able to quickly find the assemblies or drawings that can be impacted by these changes. So this capability where use is going to help you to manage and track these changes. Let's go to Onshape and take a look. So here in this example, a company wants to replace this pump for a cheaper and equivalent one. But the question is how they can define where the old pump is being used so they can update it. Inside an assembly or part studio, you can access where use by simply right-clicking the component, then selecting where use. This can be also done from the graphics. The same way, click right and then you find it. This option can be accessed from different locations within Onshape document. The where use panel now is opened, and along the top of the panel, you're gonna see a preview of the pump, its name, and the version or revision filter. If this pump has configuration, you will be able to filter by configuration. Here in the center, you find the search results, and you can immediately see the assemblies where the pump is inside of. You can decide to refine your search results. For example, if you select all versions, you're gonna see every version and revision, as well as obsolete revisions, documents in the trash, and pending revisions. If you don't have access to one of these documents containing the item in question, you will see an indicator at the bottom that tells you don't have permission to view or edit this specific document. Now, if you select one of these assemblies in the result, you're gonna see a preview at the bottom of the selected item. You're gonna see its name and a link to open it in a new browser tab if needed. So the way where use works is really simple. The results show the lowest level subassembly, and you can move up to the next level assembly by simply right-clicking the assembly, then selecting where used. You can also use the arrow icon here and keep going until you reach the top. And then from here, you can select any of the results like this drawing and open it in a new browser tab if you wish. So this is really useful, especially when one subassembly is used in multiple places. In this case, in 3 different assemblies. I can decide from here to open one of these results in a new browser tab, and this is going to open the document to let you see where the pump is being used in this document. So as you can see here, every instance in the assembly is selected and isolated. The subassembly that are highlighted here on the left indicate where the pump is being used in this top level assembly. So let's go back to the where use results again. Now, if each of the assemblies where the pump is used has many versions and revisions, the list can get very long. So what you can do, you can again refine the search results. You can search for all versions, which includes versions, revisions, and pending releases. If you choose all revisions, you're going to see only release the revisions, and this will also include obsolete items. And finally, if you choose latest revisions, you're going to see only the assemblies that reference the component in their latest revisions. So to better understand, let's now select a different configuration of this pump and display all versions and revisions. The filter here at the top shows that we are searching for the latest version of the pump, and notice here that there is one assembly in progress showing a version rather than a revision. Now, if I change here the search filter to an older version of the pump, I can see this assembly here called waterfall is still using the older version of the pump, and it needs to be updated, which means the latest version of the pump hasn't yet been approved in that assembly. So I can go back again to the latest version of the pump, and I can from here open this specific version in a new browser tab and approve it. Once it is approved, the where use result will get updated, and we're gonna see this assembly as approved here in this list. Finally, where user can be accessed from Onshape Documents page. Simply search for a part or an assembly, add a name or part number or any other criteria, and make sure to choose the latest versions. Once the results are displayed, you're gonna see the where use icon on the right, so you can use it from here instead. So as you can see, this feature is really gonna help you to quickly find where items are being used across your organization. So you can, for example, analyze the impact of any engineering change request that you may have. Let's go over the main points we just covered together. First, you can use where use command from 2 different places in the user interface. First, from the search results, and within a document in a part studio or an assembly, of course. Where use shows where version, part, or assembly are used across your organization. It works with configuration and with releases. And finally, it is supported for view only and for enterprise, light, and guest users. Now, let's talk about the next capability. So I'm going to talk about this feature or this function that can make your communication and collaboration more effective across your organization. So, for example, when you collaborate with others in Onshape, sometimes you might want to assign a task to someone and you need him to get the job done. But did you know that you can do that, create and assign tasks outside of the scope of a comment or a release? So let's go back to Onshape and take a look. So within an Onshape document, you can create what we call general tasks from any element. Simply right-click on any component and you will see Create Tasks. This could be also done from the Tab Manager. Again, right-click on the item you want to attach to your task, then select Create Tasks. Once the task panel is open, give the task a name, add a description to define it, then choose a specific category and provide properties information. Keep in mind that other properties can be included in the category, so you can customize it to fit your team requirements. In addition to the item from where you initiated the task here on the left, you can attach other document elements to your task. You can add different data from multiple documents. These could be released or workflow elements. Simply select parts, assemblies, drawings, or anything you want to add to your task as a reference. You can also add versioned items to your tasks. So as you can see, the idea is that you can bring together more than one piece of work instead of being limited. Now, with your task defined, you can specify the priority level, due date by which the task has to be completed, and finally, make sure to select the user responsible to complete the task. Once the task is assigned, the assigned user will receive a notification in Onshape as well as by email indicating that there is a task assigned to him and he needs to resolve it. The task will be also available on the assignee's action item page in which he can manage and you can manage all tasks, and also you can create new tasks if needed from here. Some of you might not see this option on the top menu. So for standard and professional accounts, you're going to see this option underneath your name here. So here I can see that there is a task assigned to me and needs to be completed. I can select View Task, which brings me right back to the same task dialog. So I can decide to add a comment here to provide my feedback. You can also view and see references that are involved. And once you have added and saved your comment, it's going to be added to the task comment history that allows you to add additional comments to define the situation over time. Once you solve the task, you can mark it as completed. You can anytime go back here to the action items and investigate any of these tasks. Also, you can use the filter column on the left side to filter through comments, releases, or tasks, or show different status. As you select different filters, the results here in the action item page is going to be updated. Action you have for enterprise users, on top of that, you got dashboards for action items. So you can see an overview of all the tasks assigned across your organization. In this summary dashboard, you're going to find the total number of tasks that have been created. You can see also how many of them still open, how many of them are completed, overdue tasks, tasks workloads, and the list of participants, etc. So all these capabilities are going to help you to keep track of the progress of your design. So let's recap quickly the main points of general tasks. General tasks can be either created directly within a document or from the action items page. These tasks can be assigned to any user in your company responsible for the tasks, including enterprise light users. You can reference any Onshape item. Could be workspaces, revisions, releases, and so on. So the idea is that you can provide all the relevant information of the assignment. Also, you can assign the task with nothing attached at all, if you wish. You can define timelines and priority. You can customize properties in the task dialog, and this could be done only by a company administrator. And finally, action item summary dashboard is available for enterprise accounts to get a summary of all the tasks assigned across your organization. Let's move on with the next capability. So sometimes you might want to share only specific data with your manufacturing team without having to share the entire Onshape document. Today, you already have the solution in Onshape called publications. Again, let's jump to a demo to see how you can use publication to share your data. So Onshape publication is simply a new type of document allowing you to share specific design information with your extended teams. You can share parts, configure assemblies, drawing, or anything else or any other data that you might want to share with your teams. These items should be released or versioned. This helps you to only share the correct information to the right people. Now, to create and to build a publication, there are a few easy steps. Start by creating your publication document in a folder in a folder location of your choice. Give the publication a name, add a description to define its purpose, and you can also use labels for personal data organization if you wish. Once inside the publication, you can now add the item you wish to pack for sharing. Simply select Insert, then search for the document from which you want to insert an item. You can set the scope of the items by choosing a specific version, then select the item you want to insert. Release items can be also included to the publications. Again, the same way, you select the release items and they are going to be added to your publication. Keep in mind that you can only insert from document to which you have permissions. You can also add items from different location and from different document. And this time I'm gonna bring a simulation to my publication. So the other user, your suppliers, with one simple click, they're gonna be able to run the simulation within the publication. The publication interface is pretty much the same as any other Onshape document, with exception is the publication notes. Here at the bottom of the screen, you got the notes section that you can use to write about each tab and each item included in your publication. You can select this option on the right to preview the notes. Here, the notes for the record accept markdown style, so you can add clear information. Here, I'm going to simply paste my notes I already prepared. And as you can see here in the preview, you can add headers, bullet points, links, and everything else that you believe can be useful to make your message clear. Notice here on the left that version and history option is not available in the publication interface, which allows you to not share the entire working history of your design. But you can still add comments and assign tasks as you used to do within a Onshape document. Let's now switch back to the other assembly. To share your publication with your teams, simply select the blue share button, just like any other Onshape document. You can share by users, by teams, and by anonymous hyperlink. You can adjust these permissions at any time if needed. All right. Now, if you want to see your publication as it would be seen by a shared user, you can select this option, View as a Viewer. And here, the other users, they're going to be able to do a lot of things like taking measurement, exporting, running exploded view, and so on. So they can do everything except editing. Just for your information, publications are entirely view only, and that is because you can only include revisions and versions to your publications. Now, if you add release configuration, the configuration selection here is frozen to make sure the other user will only get the right configuration. Once you finish previewing your publication, you can now close the viewer mode. If there is any update to one of the items referenced in your publication, a blue notification appears here, so you can choose to update it to the latest release design data if you wish, so you can make sure that everyone are working with the correct information that you sent them. Finally, you can duplicate and clone a publication you already made. This allows you to create a new publication that can be edited and updated. You can use this new publication for multiple use cases, such as supplier access or internal users. So if you want to share only a specific portion of CAD data at a specific PDM level with your teams, publications are your friends. Let's summarize briefly what we just looked at. So with publication, you can now share up-to-date data and information with any user with an Onshape account. Publications allow you to not share the entire working history of your design. Data and items within publications must be versioned or revision, sorry, and they cannot be edited. You can share publications exactly the same way you share any other Onshape document. You can include notes which accept traditional markdown style. And finally, you can duplicate and clone a publication to use for different use cases. Now let's move on with the last topic. Next, I'm gonna try to briefly answer to this question. Why would you connect Onshape, CAD, and PDM platform to a PLM system? So many companies today are having difficulties to track the progress of their projects because they are using different and a lot of systems. They need a CAD system, a PDM system. They are using hundreds of Excel spreadsheets. They can be working on multiple projects and products with many suppliers. So now the question is, what is the better way to manage all these problems? So here, look at this diagram we got. We have, this is a very common process that we find in many companies, okay? So here on the left, we have the engineering design systems, and we find here the CAD system as well as the PDM. On the right, you have manufacturing systems like ERP, MES, and others. In the middle, we got the PLM, and sorry, where all the decisions around your product performance are made. So the PLM brings product information and people in processes together into one single system to speed your product development. So now with PLM, your teams could be supply chains, finance, quality, document control. They all can collaborate and work together anytime and anywhere. And that is what Arena PLM Cloud Native Platform allows you to do. So now with the connectivity you have between two cloud native platforms, Onshape and Arena, your data information can flow between design and manufacturing, and your network of suppliers can now grow and adjust to your needs. And all that without the traditional costs of ECAD and PLM integration. So if you never use a PLM, you might not realize how this could make your system so much more efficient. So I really invite you to attend the next breakout session about Onshape Arena connection presented by my colleagues, where they're going to be talking more in depth about this topic. So with that said, that brings us to the end. Here is a list of resources on what we covered today. I would like to say thank you for your time and for your attention. And over to you, Lindsay, before we get to the questions.
Okay. So before we close, we want to make sure that you guys are aware that the PTC LiveWorks Technology Conference is happening on May 15th through the 18th. The conference is a way for you to connect with over 6,000 product development, engineering, manufacturing professionals, and leaders who will also be in attendance. We're going to have a huge exhibit area solely devoted to Onshape. I will be there, and you will get a chance to meet people who develop Onshape and network with other Onshape users. There's going to be 15 in-depth Onshape breakout sessions and 27 live training sessions where you can sharpen your Onshape skills. You'll also get a chance to learn about other technologies here at PTC, such as Arena PLM, which we talked about, augmented reality, Internet of Things, IoT, and there's 215 plus breakout sessions and over 180 demos. So, as a special promotion, the first 100 people that have attended Onshape Live who register for LiveWorks 23 will receive a complimentary 4-day pass. Just visit liveworks.com/register and enter the code Onshape Live, all one word. This special offer expires April 14th, so take advantage today. So, with that, we're going to keep the resources page up while we take questions.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. There have been a lot of questions going back and forth in the Q&A panel here. So for those of you who have been asking, please take a look. I've been trying to answer as many as I can. But there are a couple that are sort of related and similar here that I do want to ask. And in just 5 minutes that we have left, have Lindsay and Suf address these. So let's start with a little bit about versions in history. I've kind of paraphrased and joined a couple together here, so hopefully we can capture them. Is there a limit to the number of versions you can make? How far back in the history can we go? Maybe you can touch on that a little bit about the history itself.
Okay, so first off, every change you make in the document is stored in what's called a change. Those were the little blue dots. You can also create defined versions, which are the large blue dots. You just select the button in the very top, and that will create one. Those are good for milestones. There is no limit to the number of versions you can create, but the more versions you create, it may be more difficult to find what you're looking for. So it's good to do it intentionally. Um, and because every action is recorded in the version history graph, you can go back all the way to the point of creation. So every single action can be undone or redone.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Um, we also have a couple of questions on branching. So again, I'll try to join a couple of questions together here and hopefully we can cover them all. Branching is sort of similar to copying a document in some ways. Is there a reason why we might choose to branch rather than creating a duplicate copy? Sort of maybe a little bit around when do we want to branch versus when do we want to just modify the document? And then I have one other follow-up on that after you kind of touch on some of those.
So for branching, copying documents is not a great workflow. It worked in file-based systems, but for Onshape, it is not the best way to make. If you're going to make a completely separate system, then maybe a copy could be okay. But in normally a branch is the better way to do it, especially if you think that there may be overlap between them, because then you can do merge strategies to merge changes from one to the next. And what was there more to that question?
Yeah, there's a little bit about branching and releases also we can touch on. So, again, a couple of similar questions. Should we only be releasing on main? Is it a bad practice to release on other branches? How might you handle that?
So if you're doing the release flow where I was talking about, that was more like a software engineer, you would do most of your work in a development branch and then you would merge it back and then do all your releases from the main branch. If you're doing a prototyping flow, you would also probably follow that same methodology. But if you're doing variants, the variants would have their own releases and their own part numbers. So that would be a situation where you would have releases on your other branches.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Um, Suf, maybe a couple of questions for you on publications here. Is there a simple way to release just one component? And then sort of similar to that, what if I want to limit some of the data that's being shown, only specific parts of an assembly that's being shown? Is there a way we can do that today within Onshape?
Yeah, thank you, Roy. So for this question, I would recommend to use publication for this specific case, because not only you're gonna be able to share a specific release and also one specific data if you want to, but you're gonna be also able to share with your supplier that data and to make sure that he won't access the entire history of your design, which I believe you want to do.
Awesome. Very good. And then one follow-up on that as well, or kind of two pieces of follow-up here. Is there an easy way to be able to share with, say, outside vendor, supplier who doesn't have Onshape? And how might we manage that access?
Yes, you have two solutions for that. Either you ask them to create a free account, Onshape free account, and then you can share with them the publication or your document using their email, as long as they don't have permission to edit, so it's free for everyone. Or what you can do, you can use the link sharing. So you can simply turn on the link sharing and just copy paste the link and you send them that by email. And yeah, that's it. So for the last option, it doesn't require to create any Onshape account.
Fantastic. We have one or two more questions. I know we're just about at time, but if you guys have a minute or two for one more, there were some questions about configured or customized workflows. What can we do with that in terms of different stages, part numbering, revision schemes? Can we change all of that across custom workflows?
So as far as part numbering is concerned, there's three ways that you can generate part numbers in Onshape. You can type them in manually. You can have Onshape generate it, which is just a single counter system where you can change the prefix for parts, assemblies, and drawings, but you can't do much else. But if you do integrate Arena PLM, Arena can generate your part numbers, which does give you a bit more freedom in what those part numbers would look like. And then as far as with custom workflows, what you can do all kinds of things. So I showed you a picture of the release candidate that has an ECO in there. I added a separate approver. You could add any number of approvers that you want to have. You can use what's called feature script in Onshape to automatically set properties depending on other properties. Like it doesn't, like you could say, like if a checkbox is checked, then do this, this, and this, and you can do all of that with feature script. So you can fill in properties, you can add approvers, and really change the revision scheme. You can change what's required for that workflow. All the properties are fully editable between the different custom workflows that you do.
Very good. Thank you so much. And I'll end with one last super quick one for each of you, putting you on the spot for a second. We saw a lot of cool features here today of Onshape release management. Which one or which ones would be your favorites?
I love custom workflows. I like all the freedom it gives you and the ability to do different things. And the version history graph, a lot of people don't realize that you can delete workspaces on branches, which I think is super helpful to communicate that that branch is no longer being used. So if you're investigating a variant or you're investigating a prototype and then you decide you don't want to move forward with it and you remove that workspace, it communicates to everyone else that that one is no longer in development. And so I think it can be really handy. Soph, do you have any?
Yeah, on my end, I'm gonna choose publications because this is, by the way, something that we just released last year. And for me, publications is a very powerful tool because it allows you to not share the entire document, because for years we've been like sharing the entire document. And with publications, you can now just pick one item or one single part from a document and say, okay, I want to share this part at this specific version to someone. And in just a few clicks, you can just send them that. And even better, you can, with that, share like simulations, and they can run simulation within the publication, which is something that we can do and we don't really see in other softwares. Yeah, so that is my choice.
Awesome. Definitely agree. Both underrated sets of features and very, very powerful tools. Thank you guys so much for the presentation. We are unfortunately at time, but I certainly really enjoyed it, and I hope the rest of you did as well. Thank you so much for your participation. And if there are any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to chat. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of Onshape Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.